Hey guys, welcome to 3 and Out. You can check out the podcast below in the description. And here's what I need you to do. Make sure you subscribe to the Volumes YouTube channel to stay up to date to everything we're doing here on 3 and Out and the Volume. Let's dive into what we just witnessed. And I think sometimes, and listen, I mean, I talk about football for a living. You can overanalyze this stuff till the cows come home. Ultimately, in pro football, I guess it's probably a lot like this in Power 5 football. You need the guys you're paying a lot of money to play well. You're paying Matt Stafford $35 million a year. You're paying Aaron Donald $20 million a year. You actually got Cooper Kupp on a relatively cheap deal, but he's an all-pro, Pro Bowl level player. You sign Odell Beckham, which, listen, I didn't think he had that much left, but, you would like to get something out of him, especially with Robert Woods disappearing. And here's what happened tonight for the Rams, who, let's face it, were pretty desperate. Like, I don't want to say their season was, headed the wrong direction, but they hadn't been playing good football for a while. They had just been off. And to me, really, it starts with Matt Stafford, who had just had a poor stretch of football. When's the last time he had this much pressure on him in games in November and early December? It's been a while. And really, even when some of the playoff teams that he had in Detroit, no one ever thought they were going to win the Super Bowl. This is a team that's, at least considers themselves Super Bowl or bust. I don't necessarily consider them that, but they have made moves from a front office, Von Miller, obviously the Stafford trade, thinking like that. Matt Stafford was awesome tonight. I think that's the best game I've seen him play as a Ram. He was brilliant. Hit several big passes down the field. You can tell he's hurting a little bit. He's a tough S.O.B. He dominated that game. Thoroughly dominated that game. Basically 80%, 3 touchdowns. Was arguably the best player on the field. And if he wasn't the best player on the field, his teammate was. And I don't want to say Aaron Donald's overrated, but I think there have been moments this year where he's kind of, hanging on his name. And he's proven his name and number 99, he's a Hall of Fame player. He's one of the greatest defensive linemen we've ever seen. I don't think he'd been as dominant this year. Well, they needed him. And they needed him to kick ass and take names. And that's what he did tonight. The guard couldn't touch him. He was flying by him constantly, whether he was getting pressure on the quarterback or causing holding penalties. And when you cause holding penalties as a defensive lineman, you could argue that's, as effective or definitely a huge impact for a defense. And that's what he was doing. He was brilliant. Cooper Kupp was awesome. The Rams' best players dominated tonight in a big game with the lights, bright in Glendale against, one of the best teams in the league. And they shoved him around a little bit. Shoved him around would be strong because the Rams don't really run the ball. They threw the ball around a little bit, and they got after him on defense. Floyd made a great play. They had a couple interceptions. I think the rookie linebacker had one earlier in the game. And, Kyler was a little off. But kudos to the Rams in desperate need of this. Now they're still alive for the division. And crazy, the Arizona Cardinals, who have had the number 1 seed, just checking the playoff seeding right now, they're third. I think they mentioned it right on the broadcast, but I just brought it up on the iPad here. Packers are the 1 seed, Tampa's the 2 seed, and the Cardinals are the 3 seed. And I know this, in my backyard, the Niners want no part of Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. Now, I'm not saying the Cardinals have beat them twice this year, but sign me up for that first-round game. Niners-Cardinals. That's, it shows you things change fast. And obviously the 1 seed in the AFC and the NFC is such a big deal now because there's only one of them. I mean, that 2nd seed bye, which I kind of go back and forth on that one. Like, there has to be, to me, watching Tampa, Green Bay, and then in the AFC, New England and Tennessee, or if it turns out to be New England, Kansas City, I always like the 2-bye system. You work all season long. A couple teams should get a bye. But, we get more football games now that week 1, or the playoff week 1, I guess the wild card round. I'm not going to complain. But it's a really big deal. And, the Packers back-to-back years, the NFC potentially could go through Lambeau, bringing up their. So the Packers, I know Tampa's schedule's pretty easy. The Packers get the Ravens this week. Lamar's injured, but they get the Browns, who, let's face it, the Browns aren't that good. Then they get the Vikings at home and the Lions. I think the Packers could win out. Tampa gets the Saints, the Panthers, the Jets, and the Panthers. Okay, that's 4-0. The Cardinals get the Lions. That's a win. The Colts, it's a tough game. the Cowboys in Dallas, and then Seattle. Right now my money would probably be, I'm pretty confident Tampa's going to go 14-3. Green Bay, Arizona's not going 14-3. So Arizona's probably going to end up the 3 seed. It's just kind of the battle for the 1 seed. Feels right. I mean, the 2 best teams in the NFC the last 2 years, Tampa and Green Bay. The NFC is playing out the way it should. I think we should get a rematch, potentially at Lambeau, talking about a big game. I talked about Aaron Rodgers yesterday on Monday's pod. It might just come down to his decision whether he's going to stay or go is going to come down to that final game. And on the flip side, I've talked about it before on the show, but I know we've got a lot of new listeners just being at the volume. Numbers are booming. Is that Kyler Murray is, I think, the most heralded Texas high school football player in the history of the great state of Texas, who has produced a ton of NFL players. He was 43-0 as a high school quarterback. I looked up his stats tonight. I actually watched the YouTube. I mean, his high school YouTube is just, it's not even fair. He accounted for, I think, 189 touchdowns, like 117 throwing, another 69 running. He only threw 21 picks. He's one of the greatest high school football players we've ever seen, any state. Then his route in college was a little weird, right? Goes to Texas A&M, then transfers. Then he wins the Heisman at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a top 5 college program in the history of college football. Then he's the number 1 overall pick, meaning he's going to a terrible team. 3 years later, they're competing for the number 1 seed. I don't think we do a good enough job, and I know I'm guilty of this. We all watch Kyler and go, yeah, I've never seen this before. I've never seen what I'm watching. This tiny little dude who's faster than everyone on the field, yet he has like a Matt Stafford level arm, and he's accurate. It's unlike anything I've ever seen. He is truly, we do it a lot with basketball players. Even Bryce Harper, remember, he was on the front page of Sports Illustrated. He was a great baseball player, 16 years old. We all knew he was going to be one day win an MVP. It turns out he's won several. Kyler Murray is truly one of the great football prodigies in the history of the game. Just thinking off the top of my head, in recent memory, Julio would be one, right? Number 1 high school recruit, goes to Alabama, wins a natty, gets drafted really high, Hall of Fame career. Clowney, I wouldn't even put on that level. Number 1 high school recruit, really good South Carolina career, quit his junior year basically, and then has had a good NFL career. Probably made a couple Pro Bowls. I'd have to go to his wiki. It feels like he's made a couple Pro Bowls, but he's underwhelmed. Not even the best player in his own draft class. That'd be Khalil Mack. But this guy, and I know he has a long way to go. Also, when you factor in he was drafted in baseball, truly one of the great sports prodigies we've just ever encountered. And the thing is, Deion was bigger than this guy. I mean, Deion's 6 feet tall. Bo Jackson was built like a tank, right? I just think LeBron James is 6'9", 260 pounds. This guy is 5'9.5", 5'10". To me, what makes him so special is how tiny he is relative to the other guys he plays against. And when you watch him on the field against every single week, Aaron Donald, Hall of Famer, some of the just all-time great players, Kyler's one of the best players in the league. It's just how quickly he immediately became, he's just one of the best players in the league. At quarterback, it's way more seamless than I thought. And with Lamar, it was Lamar's really has to work on his passing, right? He has to become a more accurate passer, and he did over time. I know he struggled a little bit this year, but the Ravens are off. Kyler immediately was a brilliant thrower of the football, and he still is. His accuracy, his throwing on the move, when it leaves his hands, I always think he's going to hit a guy in stride. He made a play tonight on the roll. He hit A.J. Green, who's actually having a pretty good season for the Cardinals. Just a miraculous play. I've been watching football for money now for over a decade. That is as good as a play you'll see on both sides. Great catch by A.J. Green. But that play by the quarterback, holy moly. So I'll give Kingsbury credit. And listen, no issue with the Cardinals losing tonight. They played 13 games. They've won 10 of them. They would sign up for that in a heartbeat at the beginning of the season. In a heartbeat. So they've obviously lost a couple heartbreakers. Heartbreakers would be strong. I guess the Green Bay game was a heartbreaker. Tonight, I wouldn't call it a heartbreaker, but, divisional game, it's pretty big. I guess they're 7-0 at home. Their other home loss, they got killed by the Panthers. That's kind of a weird game. But, the Cardinals are having a fantastic season. Now, to truly validate it, I think they're going to have to win a playoff game. You got to win a playoff game. You have this little, time when your rookie quarterback, when I say rookie quarterback, your quarterback's on a rookie contract. I think to feel really good about it, you win that wild card division, and then you take your chance against, whoever the following round, the Bucs or whatever. Even if you lose to Tom Brady, you had a fucking hell of a season. But, you go, this is part of the problem about starting fast and then maybe kind of slowing down at the end, and then all of a sudden you lose your first-round playoff game and won't feel as good. And let's face it, I've had to apologize because I never thought they were going to be this good. But it will not, like, you lose a first-round playoff game at home, that's tough. That happened to Sean McVay his first year. They won the division, he hosted the Falcons, and he lost. But he came back the next year and he went to the Super Bowl. So he pivoted fast. And it was his first year as a head coach. This is year 3 in. Obviously, Kingsbury's already telling Schefter, trying to get that contract negotiation. Don't blame him. The owner can be notoriously cheap with coaches. But you really want to get that $8, $9, $10 million a year, win that playoff game. And then he'll have no choice but to extend you. You don't win the playoff game, he'll feel obligated to extend you, but it'll probably be some contentious negotiations. Thanks for watching 3 and Out. You can check out the podcast below in the description, and make sure you subscribe right now to the Volumes YouTube channel.